good. It's a triple-double for Bella Earl.
Goes matched up with a speedy guard. Great screen, spin move, layup, he missed it. Williamson fights for the board. His putback is good.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Straight Out of WAC podcast episode here. We're not on a Wednesday. It is a Wednesday. Jeez Louise, my dates are getting behind me since we're getting closer. We're about 2.5 weeks away from the 2025-26 season starting, tipping off, whatever you want to call it. As you can see, I've got my Wolverine hat on, and that's because we're talking with Utah Valley men's basketball head coach Todd Phillips today. On this episode, live from the Newby Center in his office that has a beautiful view of everything that's going on campus. Todd, you have a new little view out your window to look at, a new stadium, I guess you could say, to look at. How do you feel about that?
No, it's great. It's great. It's right out my window right over here. Gorgeous soccer stadium, and have two tremendous soccer teams this year. Our women and men are both crushing it. So I'm excited to get over there and to watch some games.
Awesome. Let's just put it this way. How's the summer been? You guys had to, I don't want to say completely revamp because you got some returners, but like how busy were you from the time that the NIT loss at San Francisco happened to where you're at today?
I guess to have a summer, it warms up, but it's still work, business as usual. That's kind of where we're all at right now with D1 guys. It's a grind throughout the year. And it heats up obviously for us in bringing guys in, and I think we got a really good recruiting class, and then you get them here and then you got to coach them up, right? And get them ready for the season. And we're a couple weeks away. We're excited with the group we have.
When you talk about coaching these guys up, what's kind of with, how do I want to say this, with the roster turnover nowadays in the mid-major level, you've dealt with it over, the last 5-6 years, whatever, with the new transfer portal rules and everything else and the NIL picking up. What's your kind of main focus as you bring these guys on campus, so they get on campus, to get them caught up to what you want to do, you and your staff?
Yeah, I think you want to get them caught up in kind of the Wolverine way, so to speak. They gotta buy into what we're doing. I think we push hard in recruiting as well and sell the success of our guys and what they've done overseas or even moving to the Power 5 a little bit. So you try to show those guys and teach those guys, hey, this is what these guys did when they got here. They got in, they worked, they watched a lot of film, they developed along the way, and they trusted the coaches that will put them in those right positions. And so, you got your new young guys, and it's not that they don't trust, that they've been taught different things, and so you got to come in and get them to buy in, and it's not a one-day thing. It's a process throughout the year. And we talk to them. I think a big thing we hit our guys with this year is we can compare you to last year's team a little bit, but last year's team was compared to the year before that for a long time, and you have a great run. It doesn't happen overnight. I think at one time we were 4-5 last year and had some tough losses and played in some really tough games. And, then you gotta mature and grow. And I like this group, and they're getting there.
How do you, I guess the question is, what my question for you is this: do you use the success, like you mentioned it kind of, where you send guys like Carter Welling to Clemson, where Tanner Toolson goes to TCU, Dom Nelson's at Iowa State, and so forth. Do you use that to your advantage in recruiting to say, hey, you come here, you have a big year, you could get more money, or you could go play internet? Like, how do you approach that when you go out recruiting?
Yeah, I think you can't shy away from that. You got to understand who you are and what you are. I mean, we sell that hard. The last 3 years, our top 3 guys that have had great years, got paid a whole lot of money, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars to go play. And, it's not just like a 1 year last year with Carter and Toolson and Dom. It was Aziz Bandango and, even Trey Woodbury, if we go that far back before it was even a thing. Yeah. He had over 500,000 Ole Miss that offered him if he could have got another year. And so we've had a history of year after year, our top 3-4 guys, if you can be one of those guys and help us have success, I think that's a big thing too, that these guys are starting to understand, is like not just individual success. If you're the best player on a bad team, you're that's just individual success, but team success of winning the league, being on a championship team, and then being really good on that team.
What made the run last year that you guys had? You talked about you were like 4-5 early on in December, right? You go to Stanford, kind of get beat up a little bit, but then something happened where you won 20 of your last 21 regular season games. The only loss was at Grand Canyon. But what made that so special to be in a run like that? I remember at ACU when you guys clinched a share of at least the regular season title, you had just had this like feeling of relief a little bit after the game. But like, what made that so special for you as a coach to see that all come together?
I think one of the things that was special is like, again, you got a new team, right? We had a new team coming in with new guys, unproven. Dom Nelson was a blip on a, hopefully maybe he can start for us. Maybe he can't. We'll see where he's at. I think the development of the guys as we continue to grow. And, I think a couple different things happen. You get lucky in a couple games, and to be good, you got to get lucky a few times and pull a few wins out of the fires, and so we did that, which gave us a little momentum. I think guys really bought into their roles, which is really hard in year one with guys. And, hey, I'm better than this guy. Why am I not playing more? And if you remember a little bit, we were playing 11, 12 deep, which is really hard on a coaching staff. And, I'm a JUCO guy, so I'm used to playing that a little bit, but it's rough, trying to make sure guys get minutes and they're happy and they're playing their best basketball and, trying to pull the right strings. Like, hey, we need to play this guy more this game or this guy this game. And, it's like, crap, we're getting, I don't know, say lucky is a word, but we pulled the right strings and the guys bought in. Yeah. And so we went through that process and we're winning. And so everybody kind of like, pretty happy. You can't complain much when you're winning. And then we got to a point in the season where it's like, if we slip up and lose, we're going to lose the conference. We've done all this work and now Grand Canyon's just biting at our heels. And if we slip up one game, they're going to win the conference. Right. And then they'll go and it's like, all this works for naught. And so then I think our guys really dialed in those last 5-6 games, and it wasn't so much about the winning streak. It was about, we couldn't lose, right? We had to win and had to play our best basketball. And to be honest, we didn't play our best basketball every game, but we found ways to win with a group who kind of interesting. Like you look at your team like, okay, who's your closer? Who do you give the ball to and just go to work and win this game? And I think a credit to our guys, a credit to our coaching staff. We really didn't have a closer. It's like, at the end of big games, like, I'm like, who the crap am I going to give the ball to, right? Who's hot this game? Dom could get to the basket and get fouled, but he didn't spray the ball around. Trev could really spray the ball around to guys, but didn't finish, elite at the basket. And then Tanner could shoot a great shot, but he, again, another guy that was going to go try to get it and not necessarily share the ball with guys. And so, again, we tried to pull strings every game. And I think guys just stepped up and did things that, sometimes like, oh, he's not great at that. Step up and make a huge play for us.
Yeah, I think that thought about the closer. I mean, I think it was at times it was a different guy, right? Like there was, especially that Tarleton game where you clinched the outright regular season title, where Dom took over, right? But then there was other nights where it was Tanner that hit the big shots late. I just think that thought about them knowing their roles and playing to their roles the best that they possibly could, like that was special to watch last year. And let's be real, and you can say this out loud too. Somebody was tweeting picking against Utah Valley nearly every game last year that I think fed into the fuel that your guys had.
We'll take anything we can get. We'll find any, we might have a burner account where we do it again this year as well. It's just what it is. And it's funny, like your coaches see certain things like, hey, did you see this? Like, oh, the players don't see that. And the players, they see everything. And, if that's what motivates them, great. But I hope internally that they're motivated by a lot more than some tweet out there going on about what the game. Because if that, they're kind of fragile minded a little bit. But it was a fun year, very special year.
It's awesome. That's awesome. Now, here we are, 2025, 26, last year in the WAC. But one big piece of your roster that stayed, well, I shouldn't say big piece, there's a couple of them, but the key guy, the floor general, Trevin Lenhart, stayed, and he's there for another year. He's your ball handler. He basically makes everything go, right? And how excited are you to see what he steps into this year? As another year under his belt, starting every game for you.
Yeah, no. You can't really describe that. I mean, sometimes you take some of those things for granted, but like what Trev does is he makes everybody better. He makes everybody calm down. And I think what he's done with this year's team is he's really helped us click earlier and play together sooner, just because guys aren't like, oh, I gotta go get my shot on my own. They know that Trev will get him a shot. Trev is deferring and giving guys the ball where they need to have it. I think an interesting stat that on Trev is we just did yesterday. We do a lot of analytics during the preseason right now of our practices. We stat everything. We stat not only assists, but virtual assists, hockey assists, all that stuff. And Trev, I think, had 17 overall assists, from assists to virtuals to hockey assists yesterday in like an hour and a half practice. He had 17 of them. Coach Jacobson, who does all that, it's like, I don't know if I've seen this in my 25 years. A guy just can just get guys shots and find the right guy. And he makes everybody better, right? He makes everybody better. And our big challenge for him is for him to be better this year. He's a great 3-point shooter. He defers sometimes, and having him be more aggressive this year with his shot. And I think he's bought into that. He's attacking the rim more. As you know, he's a 6'5" point guard who needs to put on weight. And I think he's put on some weight, but he's put on strength. And I think that's maybe more important than weight, is being stronger. So we're excited for him to get going this year for us. And, the great thing with him is his game is getting everybody else involved and everybody else playing better. And so I think he's going to help our team right away.
I remember talking to him after one of the wins last year outside the UCC centers with his family. And I think I mentioned something that, he needs to shoot the ball more, right? Just because he can knock down those shots. And he's like, look, we're 14-1 or, 13-1 or something like that. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. Right. And I love that mentality. Like, don't change anything if you're going to keep winning ball games like that. That was beautiful. And, love Trev's game. Jackson Holcomb is another guy I think people are going to learn more about this year. Maybe, they learned a little bit about him last year in his freshman role, but this is another guy I think with his athleticism and his ability to run the floor, get up and down, handle the ball, shoot the ball. Like, what are you excited about him in year two?
I think the thing I'm excited about Jackson is you kind of know what you're going to get with him. He's a winner. I think that's his biggest strength is he just makes plays. Whether it's getting an offensive rebound, getting a defensive stop, he's always around the ball. And so his growth just going into, actually it's year 3 for him, a red shirt and then play. And so year 2 as a sophomore playing. We're excited now he can be a little more sure of what's going on and carry more of the offensive load. He's got to be a little bit better offensively for us. And, I think he's very comfortable with that. And so we're excited to see what he can do as he moves forward, because he has had a tremendous year as a freshman for us.
Do you feel, and I know we talked a little bit about this at the Wolverine, golf tournament like 2 months ago. How do you feel about your depth right now? Do you feel it's where it needs to be? Do you feel that it's still got a little bit ways to go? I know with all the new faces, but like there's a 2 deep at the the one spot between Trev and Braden Housley, and Hayden Welling's back. Noah Tates is healthy. I think, at least from what I've heard.
Yeah, he's playing great.
But your depth, how do you feel about the depth that you have this year, maybe compared to last year, even though you're playing 11, 12 deep at some points?
Right. I think we have great depth. Obviously, I think hopefully going in most years, you feel great about your depth going in before the season starts. And then you're like, oh, what do we have? No, I think that's a strength of ours, right? 1 through 5, comparing the 2 years is always hard. And it's the beginning of the year compared to, you're comparing this year's team at the beginning to last year's team at the end. I think we have more depth than we did last year. We have more shooting. Obviously, those guys coming back. Noah had a tremendous summer. Shot the ball great. He's finally feeling healthy. So he's been a big part of it for us. And then obviously Hayden being in year 2 in the program, he's been a big time guy. He's going to help us a ton. I think we'll probably play 5 bigs again, just like we did last year, rotate those guys through and, try to pull the strings the right game. And Hayden was a guy who came in and maybe a little unsung at times last year. Like he'd come in and hit bang, bang, hit 2 big threes to get us going, or, the game's been tied close and all of a sudden he came in and gave us something different than our other bigs did. Carter did shoot it, but like he didn't quite shoot it as aggressive as Hayden, and Hayden could change a game in a hurry for us. And so, his big thing is being consistent game in and game out, and what you do for us, on the defensive end of guarding and rebounding, and so he's going to be good for us. Both him and Noah are definitely guys that are going to bring depth to our team and be big impact guys for us.
Is there any newcomer that stood out to you so far that maybe you knew about, but has kind of surprised you in the way that they've gotten after it? Or is it just, no, we're getting exactly what we expected and exactly what we wanted from this guy?
We knew exactly what we were going to get from everybody. We knew we were dead on. No, I think it's interesting this time of year because you see guys do stuff. You're like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. Or, man, that's impressive. This, when we see Isaac Hawkins put his elbows above the rim effortlessly on some, breakaway dunk, you're like, oh my gosh, and so I think where we're at is where does the next step go? Where does the improvement come for these guys? Where does the understanding their role and play in that? I mean, that's a lot of what we see, like what happened to Dom last year. I mean, we're going into this time last year with Dom and like, yeah, we're going to start him. Maybe we need to start one of these other guys. We'll see how consistent he can be. And his strength was his game just grew and grew and grew. He just got better. And all of a sudden he got more comfortable in transition. He got more comfortable in our offense. And so I think we have a lot of guys like that. They're coming in, a couple transfer guys that are talented. I think our wings are big and long, but now they got to settle into playing with Trev, to playing with Jackson and Hayden and Noah. And so I'm excited. We play this Sunday in our scrimmage. I'm excited to see where our guys are at and then to grow from there.
Yeah, big time. Let's talk a little bit about your schedule. You were one of the last teams in Division I to put out your full schedule. We've talked about this. The challenge after a season that you had where you win 25 games to get teams to play you. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's home or away. You have, I believe, three Mountain West teams in San Diego State, Fresno State, and Boise State, but like no power conference teams. What can you maybe just elaborate a little bit for the people that are listening, the discussions that you had with those power conference teams, and that immediately they said no when you reached out, basically?
Yeah. So our thing is we're still at a mid-major level where we're trying to get, paid to go play somebody, right? At the Power 5 level. We're just not going to go in there for free. So, they got to manage their schedule. They want to schedule wins, right? And so, the better you are, the bigger risk you are to come in there and play. And so basically the Big 12, which is right here, BYU, Utah, all those guys, we reached out to everybody in the Big 12 trying to get, a pay to go in and play, right? And the odds are you're probably going to lose to a Power 5 team or a ranked team, but you can get paid for it to help fund your program. And that's still what we got to do here at Utah Valley. And they all said no. So then it gets a little harder, right, to what you're going to do. Our schedule is tough enough. I know it's not Power 5, but shoot, we got San Diego State, who's going to be ranked start the season. I think they're like 27, something like that. Boise State's predict to be one of the top teams in the Mountain West as well. And so we feel like they're Power 5 teams, right? They might not be classified as Power 5 teams, but we feel like they're Power 5 teams.
Technically, next year they will be Power 5 teams, right. I guess you could say, right?
Correct. And so, we're going to go in those places. One of the things we tried to do this year is because it's hard for us to get games, we end up on in the South and the West Coast or the East Coast last year a bunch, and our travel was brutal in the preseason. And so we tried to do a little bit better job of that, of staying on the West Coast, and our coaches did a great job with that. But it's a game within a game of scheduling, right? You're trying to get guys, nowadays you basically can't get anybody to come in here and play that's really good. They just won't do that. And so then you're trying to see what you can get to go there, and you want to schedule a tough schedule, but you also want to figure out a way to have a winning record going into the WAC season. And so I like our schedule. We got more home games than we've had in a couple of years. We got some really good teams coming in. UC Irvine, I think they went undefeated in last year on the road. We'll be an opponent with them next year. They're coming in as part of the Cancun Challenge we're in. So they're part of that. So we got them to come in here and play. And then we're, like you said, at Boise State, at San Diego State, at Fresno. And then we play Santa Barbara at the Delta Center. So our guys are excited about that, to playing there. And, basically two of the top teams in the Big West, we get to play, and 2 or 3 of the top teams in in the Mountain West.
Yeah, I think when people saw that you guys get UC Irvine at the UCCU Center, that's a big game because I think they're a Ken Palm top 75 team somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean that's a great home game, and like you said, to be able to play another Big West opponent at the Delta Center, I think that's part of a challenge too. I can't remember who the other teams are that are playing there.
Yeah, Utah State and Utah are both playing that day, so it's all three Utah teams are playing, and they got I think Utah's playing like Kansas State or somebody like that. Not sure who Utah State's playing, but yeah, it's gonna be a fun day, great day of basketball.
Now, I don't mean to bring up the past, but you are going to Bowling Green in December. That 3 days after you play at San Diego State. The last time you played a Todd Simon coach team, you were an assistant with Mark Madsen in that WAC semifinal game. So how do you feel going back and facing an old foe, I guess you could say?
You know, it'll be great. You know, I think the big thing with Todd is he does a tremendous job. You know, you're going to get a great team that's really well coached. Offensively, they're going to have some firepower, and you're going to have some problems defensively. So yeah, it'll be great to see him. You know, bad memories from that game, but you know, the great thing about those is what we did after that was so remarkable that gut-wrenching loss, kind of, to be honest with you, I don't really think about it. It doesn't faze me anymore because of what we did after that. And the NIT run was really special with these guys. And, you know, and so it was kind of magical after that. And so that bad memory, that disaster of a game, the disaster of 5 minutes, I kind of sweep under the rug and try to keep buried over there.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't bring it up. But that's the first thing I thought about when I saw that, when I heard that, you know, Utah Valley is going to Bowling Green to face the Falcons and Todd Simon. So I got to ask you, how's your bowling game? Because, you know, next Wednesday we'll be bowling.
Yeah, you know, it's probably as good as my golf game. So they'll go deciding between going golfing or bowling, and I think they end up bowling, so it's a little closer. But I got a couple ringers. I think our team is really good bowlers. We've taken them a couple of times, and you know, some guys in the 200s, and they're like, dang. So it'll be fun. It's a fun day, and we're excited for that. And you know, whenever that comes, that means the season's right here, right around the corner. So we're ready to get after it.
Absolutely. Todd, I got to ask you, I'm asking every coach this. The WAC is, I don't want to say it's disintegrating because it's rebranding to the United Athletic Conference, but Utah Valley, California Baptist going to the Big West. Next year, Utah Tech, Southern Utah going to the Big Sky. In your time in this league, whether it's an assistant or as, you know, the head coach now, what is a trip that you aren't going to miss too much, that you're not going to put on the schedule for a long time, if you ever do, that you're going to miss?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could probably put all of those on the list. You know, obviously going down and playing Abilene and Tarleton at their places, you know, it's a little tricky to get into a little bit. You know, it's a little crazy. The environment's really good down there with those guys. And then you're playing, you know, a lot of, I don't want to say different style of basketball, but a little different style of basketball. They play obviously with Tarleton and Abilene with the pressure and things. And so, you know, I won't miss that. It's, you got prep all week for a different style. I mean, you got to change a little bit of your offense. You got to get some guys that haven't seen it prepared for it. So that week takes a lot of work, you know, a lot of preparation, okay, here we go. We can't just say, hey, we're going to run X, Y, and Z that we've been running all year. You got to really prepare for those guys. You know, and I think they're both tremendous coaches. So that's definitely a tough trip. And probably a lot of people say that. That would be something like, we're not going to turn around and schedule them right away to go back down there and play. You know, I talk to my buddies out there and say, hey, we're looking to play Tarleton, or we're looking to play Abilene. You know, what do you think about playing them? I'm like, you guys are crazy. And, you know, you can go find somebody that's a lot easier to play than those guys, just because of their style of play and the things they do, and the ability that those coaches have to get the best out of their guys.
I like it. One last question for you. Play everybody 3 times. How do you feel about that? I know you're getting ready for, you know, the scrimmage. You're getting ready for, you know, your November 3rd tip-off. You know, probably getting ready for Boise State too. But you look at that conference schedule, you have to play everybody 3 times. What maybe is something you're looking forward to as part of that prep, and maybe something that you're kind of dreading as part of that prep?
Well, for this, yeah. I'll answer that in a roundabout way. First off, the 3 games isn't the issue. It's the 4th game that's the issue.
Yeah.
That's where it comes into play. Hey, 3 times, great. It's now, if you beat somebody 3 times, you got to beat them a 4th. Ooh, that's super scary, right? And so all those things come into play. I've had quite a bit of experience playing this in JUCO. We had 3 or 4 years where our league we lost North Idaho and a couple of teams, and so we were playing that, and it's brutal. It's not fun. You're going to get down to the last 2 weeks of the season, and you're going to a 3rd time to somebody's house, or they're coming to you, and then right away, we might play them right away in the tournament. And I've been in a situation where we went to CSI. And they blasted us that 3rd game. I think we were both 1-1. We'd won each. They blasted us, 20, 25 points, just destroyed us. And we could turn around in the tournament and we just whooped them. Our guys are mad. Their guys are like, oh, they're not that good. And it just flipped around. And then the game that counted, the championship game, it wasn't even a ball game. We destroyed them just because of kind of your mindset of the guys. Now, those are young kids. They're only freshmen and some sophomores. And so these kids are much smarter and more mature. Our kids we have nowadays, but I think that's a hard part of it, the mental aspect of it. When you beat somebody, do you stay with your same game plan? Do you change the game plan because they're going to change their game plan? Hey, we hedged ball screens the whole time. Now they're going to be ready for it. And so there's a game within the game that happens when, I think as coaches, what's hard is you almost second guess yourself. It's like, oh, they know what we're doing, so let's do something different. But then you go away from what you were doing that was successful. How does that come into the game? And then just getting your guys ready to go, right? So I think those are all challenges. But to me, you can sit and complain about it, but we all have to deal with it. It's basketball, right? There's new rules that are coming in I don't love. I don't love the continuation rule that they're adding, but you just got to deal with it and play. The coach's challenge, maybe some people love it. I don't, I think it's kind of a crazy thing. You're going to lose a timeout if you do it, and your players want you to, hey, it was off him, challenge it. So you got all that stuff that comes in that you just, as a coach, got to deal with, right? Yeah. And the great thing is we all have to deal with the same things. The schedule's tough for everybody.
It'll be interesting to see.
Excited for those things.
Well, like you said, that 4th game, like if you beat a team 3 times or you beat them 2 out of 3, that 4th time is really the most important because that's in the WAC tournament, right? And you want to get to the NCAA tournament. That's the ultimate goal this year in the final year of this version of the WAC. Did you know, and I learned this talking with CBU women's basketball head coach Jared Olson, Utah Valley is the only team left from the time that the Lancers joined the WAC back in 2018-19.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Is that crazy to think about?
So just 2 are the only 2 that have been in the WAC the whole time.
The whole time since that time. Yeah.
That is crazy. That is crazy. I've loved the WAC. I think the WAC's been great. It's fun. Like I can, hey, you don't want to go to Tarleton, you don't want to go to Abilene, but it's great. I mean, it mixed up different styles of play. We had to prep every week for somebody else. We prep for Seattle, and they're shooting a ton of threes. I think GCU's the closest to similar to us, right? They're big, they're physical. Right. Us 2 kind of play that same style, and then you got Utah Tech and Juddy who's got shooters everywhere and running undersized foremen off stagger screens, and you're trying to figure out how to guard that. So the league has been tremendous. Really good coaches and a lot of fun because there's a lot of different styles. Yeah,
it's been a very fun league. Crazy to where we've gotten to because of conference realignment, but it is what it is, and it's time to go play ball, right? Like we got 2.5 weeks, so yeah,
we're ready to roll.
Todd Phillips, Utah Valley men's basketball head coach, live from the Newby Center. We'll see you on Media Day next Wednesday from the bowling alley in the Student Center, and we'll see if you get in a game.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Straight Outta WAC podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.